Welcome to Algebra 2, Unit 6, Lesson 18, Practice Problems. Jada is riding on a Ferris wheel. Her height in feet is modeled by the function h of m equals 100 times the sine of negative pi over 2 plus 2 pi m over 10 plus 110. Where m is the number of minutes since she got on the ride. Number 1, how many minutes does it take the Ferris wheel to make one full revolution? Explain how you know. For number 1, we look right here. Here we can see that if we take 2 pi, which is one full circle, multiply it by the number of minutes she's been on the ride, and divide by 10, we will get how many full circles she's made. So this is telling us she'll make one full circle every 10 minutes. So it takes 10 minutes to make one full revolution. Number 2, what is the radius of the Ferris wheel? Explain how you know. Well, the radius is the amplitude, and the amplitude is the number that we multiply sine by. So the radius of the Ferris wheel is 100 feet. And number 3, sketch a graph of h. So one thing that might help is drawing a quick image of what we're talking about. Imagine your Ferris wheel, and we know the center is 110 because that is our midline. So we know from the center to the ground is 110. And we just said that the radius is 100. So at the bottom of this, we're going to be 10 feet off the ground. And at the top of this, we're going to be 210 feet off the ground. Because the bottom will be the 110 minus the 100 radius, and the top will be the 110 plus the 100 radius. So as we draw this, this is a sine function, so it would start at the origin, but now when we look, we see that we are starting at negative pi over 2. So negative pi over 2 is the bottom of the Ferris wheel. So we're going to put our first point at 10. We know that it takes 10 minutes to make a full revolution. So we'll be back at the bottom at 10 minutes, and we'll be back at the bottom at 20 minutes. we know that halfway we're going to be at the top, which we said was 210 feet. So we'll be at 210 feet at 5 minutes, and we'll be back at 210 feet at 15 minutes. So now we can draw the sine curve that starts at 10, reaches the maximum of 210 at 5 minutes, finishes the revolution back to the bottom at 10 feet at 10 minutes, goes back up again to the top at 15 minutes, and returns back to the bottom at 20 minutes. If you have any questions about how I answered this practice problem, please use class time to ask for further clarification. The vertical position in feet of the point P on a windmill is represented by y equals 5 times sine of 2 pi t divided by 3 plus 20, where t is the number of seconds after the windmill started turning at a constant speed. Select all the true statements. Choice A. The windmill blades are 5 feet long. The windmill blade length is going to correspond with the amplitude, and the amplitude is the number that we are multiplying sine by. Here we see that the amplitude is 5, so the windmill blades would be 5 feet long. So A is a correct answer. Choice B, the windmill blades make 5 revolutions per second. To look at that, we're going to see what we are multiplying by the input. That'll give us the frequency. Well, the frequency is 2 pi over 3. That means 1 revolution every 3 seconds. So that means B is incorrect. D is correct. The windmill makes 1 revolution every 3 seconds. E is wrong. It's not making 3 revolutions per second. It's making 1 revolution per 3 seconds. And finally, choice C, the midline for the graph of the equation is 20. The midline is the number that we're adding at the end. We are adding 20, so that does mean the midline for the graph is 20. So our correct choices are choice A, the windmill blades are 5 feet long, C, the midline for the graph of the equation is 20, and D, the windmill makes 1 revolution every 3 seconds. If you have any questions about how I solved this practice problem, please use class time to ask for further clarification. A seat on a Ferris wheel travels 250 pi feet in 1 full revolution. How many feet is the carriage from the center of the Ferris wheel? So, just to draw a diagram so that you understand this better, we're saying we have a Ferris wheel, and that when it makes 1 full rotation all the way around, this is 250 pi feet. Well, the circumference of a circle is 2 pi times the radius. So if I know that the circumference is 250 pi and I want the radius, then I need to take 250 pi and divide that by 2 pi to get the radius. The pi cancel out, and 250 divided by 2 equals 125 feet. So from the center of the Ferris wheel out to the cart is going to be 125 feet, which is choice C. If you have any questions about how I solved this practice problem, please use class time to ask for further clarification. A carousel has a radius of 20 feet. The carousel makes 8 complete revolutions. Number 1, how many feet does a person on the carousel travel during these 8 revolutions? So for number 1, the circumference equals 2 pi times the radius. So that's 2 pi times 20 feet equals 40 pi. This is 1 revolution. If I want 8 revolutions, that's going to be 40 pi for 1 revolution times 8 revolutions equals 320 pi, and this is measured in feet. Number 2, what angle does the carousel travel through? Well, the angle of 1 revolution equals 2 pi. So the angle of 8 revolutions equals 2 pi times 8, which equals 16 pi. Number 3, what is the relationship between the angle of rotation and the distance traveled on this carousel? So the overall distance traveled is the angle of rotation multiplied by the radius. In this case, we say that the angle of rotation is 16 pi. We say the radius is 20 feet. Therefore, 16 pi times 20 feet would give us the 320 times pi feet distance that we found in number 1. If you have any questions about how I solved any of the problems on these practice problem worksheet, please use class time to ask for further clarification.